Hello and welcome to Healing Tips from the Heart, Intuition with Helpers, Healers, and Guides. I am your host, Dr. Lori Hops, licensed psychologist, writer, and artist. I've explored mind, body, and spirit related to intuition, or your personal guidance system, since early childhood. Meet my guests who have learned from their personal and professional lives to explore vast realms of knowing, synchronicities, and overcoming challenges. Their stories may inspire you with tools to enhance your daily living and relationships. Hello, everyone, and welcome my special guest for today, Maria Yracébûrû. Maria has been at the forefront of the preservation and perpetuation of cross-cultural earth wisdom collaborations. She is a world-class ceremonialist, mesmerizing storyteller, award-winning humanitarian, prolific writer, renowned native spiritualist, pilgrimage leader, teacher, crafter, scholar, and auntie. And together with her family, she has co-founded EarthWisdom in 2001. And in 2007, she united Womyn Spiritualists from global tradition, the Sisters of Honua Project. In 1993, she was awarded the Third World Counselors Humanitarian Award for achievement in all facets of eco-psychology, storytelling, and cultural preservation endeavors. And she has received support through AA groups for her 2004 book, Prayers and Meditations, and University of Santa Barbara through the Global Medicine Project and recognition by the Kahuna of the Order of Lono for her work in the Sisters of Honua Project. And I am thrilled, and my heart is open to welcoming you, my dear, dear Maria. Thank you so much for joining today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We've been friends a long time, and yeah, it was overdue. So I am pleased to be here and reconnect in this more physical way than what we normally work.
Yes. So I'd like everyone to know I met you 10 years ago and change when I went to a life-changing retreat in Hawaii at a very, very special sacred location. And you were one of several of my dear, dear mentors, teachers, and family during that week. And it was a union and a reunion and very powerful. And I hope that we talk a little bit about that so people will know more about it. But thank you for changing my life. And thank you for helping me remember what I had forgotten. And thank you for being there as I was given a sacred name and met ancestors who I had been yearning to meet my whole life and finally came. So I owe you so much gratitude.
Well, thank you. And I'm gonna say the credit that I am due in that equation is probably I picked some friends to get together at my aunt's house, and everybody showed up. And without one person that was actually there, it would not have been the same.
True.
And it was a magic that I hope everybody gets to experience at least once in their lifetime.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, you've had an incredible lifetime, and you're continuing to have an incredible lifetime. So, out of all the things that we could talk about today, I know you had some really important central messages that you
Yeah.
wanted to share. And so I am here to help support you share
Yeah.
those messages.
Well, thank you. Well, what I actually want to talk about is, something that you and I did when we went to Hawaii that time. And, when we met with you, it was kind of like a cross between a pilgrimage and an actual workshop. There was a little
Mhm.
more workshop involved than when we do a full-on pilgrimage and we're going from sacred site to sacred site to sacred site. Um, And yet, anytime you go to Hawaii, it's sacred pilgrimage, whether you're in a workshop or you're actually going from sacred site to sacred site. Um, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. We just went to Hawaii. You and I both have someone in common that, yeah, life-changing. Kaleleahi, Kahuna of the Order of Lono. Um, she was my aunt. Probably the most instrumental person, let's back up for a minute. I'm half Apache, and so what I do comes through the traditional upbringing that my grandfather gave me. So there's a lot of spirituality, there's a lot of psychology, there's a lot of the physical, all these avenues or layers of healing that interlace. It's the whole package, right? And I learned a lot of things from him. But what kind of became my forte, right? You learn everything, and then what you just like lit up doing while you were doing it, that becomes your practice, right? And so for me, it was the ceremonies, it was the sacred site maintenance work, of going on these pilgrimages and doing ritual at different places. But back in 1983, I think it was, or something like that, um, an Apache man met a Hawaiian woman and they got married. And the next thing I knew, that was my uncle. The next thing I knew, I had 500 Hawaiian relatives. But I had this one that was not going to be ignored. And she was an amazing artist. And my own inner child healer. She helped me with a lot of the things, everybody brings down the stories with their parents, right?
Yeah.
And helped me with that. But then there was a move at, I think it was like 1996, that one day I was out doing something and it hit me. You guys should do ceremony together, you know? And so I approached her with it and I said, okay, so I've got these ceremonial kind of scripts for mystery plays and different things to do at different energy centers on the planet. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to suggest a merger. And so what it was, okay, this is how I do this. This is a physical healing ritual or an emotional healing ritual, or this is how we leave offering. Or so we sat down and we discussed a lot of things.
Hmm.
And so then what we found was they weren't that far off. We even found Hawaiian words and Apache words that are the same, right? That gets really interesting in itself. But what we did then was we'd follow the script that I got from Grandpa about the order of how the energy flowed. And I do some things, and then she'd do other things, but from the Hawaiian perspective. And
Yeah.
then we threw in my partner, Linda, who's Gypsy, and other people started coming in. So we ended up with something like we had with you, where we had Mark Sato, we had Aunty, we had me. Seems like Linda was teaching, somebody else was teaching too. But it was all these different kind of earth oriented perspectives and teachings that came together. And the beauty of it is we just follow the script, right? If it says do this now, well, how would a Hawaiian do that? How would a Japanese teacher do this? How would this happen? How would that happen? And it just flows.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we found this great beauty that existed when the children of the four directions came together. And so learning that with her, we did it for a few years, and then like in 2005, she moved back to Hawaii. 2004, maybe 2004. Where she was originally from. And and so she started inviting us over. And at first it was just for us, the Apache nieces to come over and visit. And within the first year, we were going exploring to places that she hadn't visited on the island since she was a child.
Oh,
And so then that grew because now we have this affiliation with all these places. By 2007, we had moved into a position with other Kahuna of the order, um, that we have the towels on our legs. And not Apache. Okay, this is Hawaiian. And the growing story seems to be the Hawaiian side of things because it's rubbing up my leg every time I go to Hawaii. And there's always meaning in the symbology and stuff, but it set in motion this orientation that five Kahuna came to me and they said, you bring people. You bring people. And the people that you're bringing are returning home to Lemuria.
yes.
And now a lot of the prophecies of indigenous people right now speak to we're tapping into that time dynamic on how relationships worked, how we had relationships with the earth and stuff like that. And so they kind of made that our charge or responsibility. Doesn't feel like responsibility when you're going on pilgrimage, right? It's just kind of like, yeah, okay, that's something I do. Um, and so, yeah, so that's set in motion. And like every year, sometimes twice a year, we'd be taking people over there.
Hmm.
Now, I grew up, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this was I grew up with pilgrimage being in my life and going to sacred sites in Arizona and New Mexico with my grandfather every year to lead the offerings, to do the prescribed rituals, which connect humanity to those places, the power of those places. But what it really does, and this is why it became so important for me to talk to you today, was because it tells mom we believe in what she's doing, right? So we were maintaining the spiritual health of the land.
Hmm.
And we're all involved in what's happening environmentally with the earth changes and stuff and how do we move closer to what's happening with that? And a big thing for me has always been we need to know more about mom and her patterns of flow instead of trying to fit her into what we want, right? And so seeing this happening and taking people on pilgrimages there this time, of course, here we spoke of flow and just showing up and having these miraculous things happen. We track the energy before we go, so that it's timed in a certain timing factor. This trip, of course, was over the spring equinox, so it spoke about new life, new vision, all of that happening. And while Pele's coming and going, writing new land, um, and then on top of that, the one thing about Hawaii and the spring equinox is on the 25th was Auntie's birthday.
Yes.
On the 26th was my grandfather's birthday. So
Ah,
they're like 100 years apart, but here they are right next door to each other, right?
yeah.
Personality, the whole Aries thing, right? And so it's always been a very powerful time. And we always, the one thematic that has crossed every single pilgrimage and year that we've done and done that was the fabrication of the Rainbow Bridge from Hawaii over to the mainland and and then seeing it circumvent the earth at that point. Um we also do the other side. We go up to my mountains and we look back the other way. So it's a complete circle. Next year we'll be doing in Arizona, New Mexico. Um
Mm.
it started out with Auntie talking in my head. Okay, she's like, okay, it's time to do this. And one of the things in her being part of my inner child healing was that then that turned around and helped me with my children.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. And I have sons and she has sons. And then it became, as I got closer to her children, that I provided that same avenue for them. So our boys grew up pretty much more like brothers in the spiritual realm than cousins. And so she said, okay, it's time. In 2007, this year that I'm telling you was so auspicious, we took her out to this beach that the tsunami had come through at one point, and we did a healing of our son ceremony.
Oh.
And one of the things that happened was she spoke out to the ocean across that fabricated rainbow bridge to her son about healing and about things that had happened in his life. And, her owning responsibility for part of that, but not all of that.
Hmm.
And so it was about one, release the guilt so that the wall of guilt doesn't stay between you. That allows the child then to make another step closer this way into the resolution of what has happened. Um, so we did that. And one of the things that happened on that day was that, again, listening to the land, listening to the spirit, whoever you believe is out there, right? Here it was. You lay them down in this certain geometrical configuration. She walks out into the ocean. She does this offering, does these prayers, all that stuff, and then she comes back in. Well, this year it was, we're bringing Matthew home.
Oh.
We're bringing Matthew home for his acknowledgement by Kahuna of his being 77th generation Kahuna of the Order of Lono. And so it started out with my cousin Ehulani, who, you know, when Holly Makua died, he was a really famous Hawaiian spiritualist. When he got ready to cross, he turned over the spiritual caretaking of Kilauea to Aunty. Well, Matthew's her son, okay. And so when she got ready to transition, she passed that to Ehelani, the
Okay.
guardianship of the volcano. And so when we go over, when we know people that are going there, we're like, okay, here, you gotta call her and you gotta go follow protocol and meet Pele before you do anything, right?
Yep.
Otherwise, it doesn't come out as well.
Yeah.
Um, So protocol is really important when you're doing sacred work, that you're also in good with respect with whoever the local indigenous are. So I
Yes.
try to train all my students, if you're going to go do sacred work in someplace other than where you're from, you make contact with a relative, because I remember telling you, yeah, now you're in the family. There's nowhere you can go that you're not going to run into family. And if you don't reach out, they will show up. So that goes a long way for healing a lot of the heart stuff that's happened between the indigenous and the colonizers.
Yes.
And I want descendants of colonizers to understand at one point you were indigenous, okay, because that
Right.
means you were born on Earth.
Right.
Um, that's still there, but that memory may be more of an ancient history than a recent history.
Yes.
It can be for people that were just colonized in the last 200 years. Um, and the difference is the earth connection, right? That we still have that spiritual union with the earth, whereas a lot of the dogmatic religions are those that have, they're not all dynamic. They're all dynamic, but you know, the more structured religions that have gone away from earth. I'm being careful here, away from Earth. And so there's been a growing separation between the
Yeah.
spirit of the planet and the spirit of the people. So anyway, so we're doing all of this and we've made all these arrangements, and we decide, yeah, we're just going to stay in Hilo and we're going to spoke out like a medicine wheel, right? Instead of going around the island, we're just going to stick at the little intimate places we used to go with Aunty. Because for me, they're more powerful anyway. They're not places tourists go, right?
Yeah.
And so that's another thing, getting in good with the locals by asking permission can get you is they'll tell you where to go.
Yeah.
And so we did this and we went to these places and oh my God, Lori, the healings that happened, up at the volcano. Um, she wasn't going off at the time, but that night after we did ceremony, she went off, and all the kids went up there, and Matthew went up there, and our handful of students, pilgrims, stood up there and snapped into ritual. They did the hula, they did the chants, they led each other. Matthew channeled things, and while she's shooting off flames, there were 300 tourists up there that just fell silent for all of it.
Wow.
It accidentally ended up on Japanese television somehow. I don't know. And after we went to the volcano that day before the kids went up to the hill, we went down to Nohuku cave and we're doing my wife's specialty, which is taking pictures of fairies. And so we did that again. And there's this guy walking through, he's a professional photographer, right? And he's like, okay, so what is going on? I see you have a group of people. They're all very excited. What's going on? Linda told him, oh, we're taking pictures of fairies. And he goes, no, you're not. And she's like, go talk to everybody. And so he did. And oh my God, he joined the group. And before he got out of the other side of the cave, this man was dancing a jig. And then we found out all the video was going on Japanese TV for something. I don't know what.
I love
Uh,
it.
he was doing like a tourist spot or something, but you know, so so what you see when you go and you're honoring the earth and what Mother is offering us back in return, just by that minute of I believe in you and I believe this is a real relationship, has the power to change the people, even the ones that were not part of the original group. Everywhere we went, we saw people being affected by the energy.
Yeah.
I mean, right down even to the kids at the restaurant, right? Like, okay, so I've known Grandma who's owned this restaurant since 2005, and it's now in third generation hands, right? And the first night we were there happened to be all three generations of that matriarch were sitting in that restaurant, right? And they're like, "Oh, I know you." It used to be a joke with me and people that, yeah, I frequent places and I'm very dedicated and devoted. You treat me right, I will be back time and time again. And
Mhm.
you already know what I drink. It's on the table. My Arnold Palmer is sitting there waiting for me. So it's a good reciprocal, right? And
Yeah.
because we have, boy, when we've gone on pilgrimage, very rarely in the pilgrimage stance have we had small numbers. Okay. So, I mean, we're talking 20 people, right? So, here, this particular pilgrimage was a big boost in their economy as well because we ate there every morning for breakfast, right?
Okay.
And some dinners and stuff. And so they were telling us, yeah, um, tourism since COVID's not been that great,
Yeah.
you know, and especially on the Hilo side. Everybody goes to the Kona side because that's the tourist side of the
Yeah.
island.
Yeah.
So we were able to do that. We were able to contribute to a couple nonprofits over there in the work that we were doing and bring them forward so they could be featured to
Nice.
and gain exposure to others. Um, the most powerful day, of course, is always the last day when the culmination of rituals comes together. And the wind blew and blew and blew out on that beach. It just was like you thought you were going to blow away, right? And you got your sarongs tied on, your puejos. And okay.
So you were saying that this ceremony that took place in the spring here of 2025 with Matt, Kuna Kale's son, with this legacy of 77
Hmm.
generation of Lono is being passed to him, but it really started in 2007 when
Yeah.
Kahuna Kale was at the ocean and offering her release of guilt and
Yeah.
the connection to her son.
Mhm.
So catch us up in between. So from 2007 to 2025.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, and so Anti-crossed in 2019, 2020, and dead people show up in your head talking more than when they were alive. I know you've had this experience. Uh, and so,
Often.
there are certain people I actually listen to, not
Yes.
everybody. But she showed up and she said, okay, it's time to bring people back to the island and complete the ceremony. And so we did, and 22 people signed up. Our mutual friend Cynthia was there. She lives on the island now after our experience together. She moved there when she retired. And so she was actually kind of ground crew helping me set things up. And we went to these very, very local and intimate sacred places, each one a power vortex unto itself. And then we finished on the last day with the same beach that Aunty and us had begun this ritual in 2007.
Okay.
And so we had him go out in the ocean because at the time of the ceremony, she was here and he was on the mainland. And so there was a guardian for him that represented his brother and that side of their lineage. And there was a child that came that represented his children and future generations. And they walked him in, and the night before the ceremony, this was not planned. Um, there was an elderly kahuna that wove together the tea lay, okay, of the priesthood. And when you see it not in ceremony, it represents more of the masculine side of things. So, like at a wedding, a guy would get that kind of lay, and a woman would get the flowers. But it does represent the priesthood. In a sacred act. So this woman wove together 24 of these things
Wow.
overnight, right? And they show up and they're fresh, and we procession down, and there's nobody but locals on the beach, okay, first off, and most of us that were in the group look pretty white, right? And and so we're doing all this stuff and they're watching us, and we're coming together. And the main guy we had contact with, he was out there teaching his nephews how to fish the traditional way,
Okay.
weaving the nets together and spearfishing. And so we ate before we went down into the water to do the thing. And here they come. They got trays of freshly grilled fish for us.
Wow.
Honor what they see us doing and seeing that we're doing it within the prescribed etiquette and protocols that they've been taught.
Yeah.
And so that was just another, yeah, confirmation. Auntie sent help when we needed to remember, yeah, we got support over here.
Yes.
And so we've got Matthew down, and it's really, coral and rock, lava rock, cut your feet up kind of beach, right?
Yeah.
And he's out there and they're walking in, and we've laid these tea leaf lay out so that they form a tunnel.
Uh-huh.
And then people are at the end of that forming the continuance of the tunnel. And then Linda, my partner, was at the end with two of our adopted daughters that Matt's known through the years. And she represented Aunty. She stood in for Aunty as that surrogate. And then our girls supported her as the mother. And so he comes in, and another daughter is chanting the Ehomai while he's walking in. And as he comes through the lay, then we closed the circle and closed in on him until he was received by his mother. So he was like in this little container of things. Now, without going into too much intimate detail, because this is his story and he has to
Yes.
tell it, it cleared the way for so many things. One of the things that I can speak about was that one, he received Pele as his mother. Many of the pilgrims that went did. One of the things I always say is consider Earth in all your decision making. Go to mom first. She's the true unconditional. It was that type of relationship really set in. People recognized her as a living, breathing entity, not just a piece of land.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what tells mom we believe in that moment, right? And so that opened the doorway. He heard his ancestors, he heard Aunty. Ehulani received him on behalf of the order. He had met her once before at Auntie's um, funeral
Oh,
or rice,
yeah.
you know, it wasn't really a funeral. We don't do funerals, but it's, that honoring in the last minute. And she was so busy with what she was doing, she didn't really get time to spend with Matthew, right?
Hmm.
And so when we arrived to start with, she was looking at him. She knows him, but she can't figure out from where, right? And so then her guardian, they comes over and we talk, and I'm like, yeah, hang on just a second. And so I go get him and I'm bringing him in. I go, Matthew, I think you guys have met. And the next thing I knew, man, he was whisked off to Kahuna land, right? They're talking about things for him to do. He's told her he needs a kumu, that whole traditional exchange that comes down through the lineage.
Yeah.
And so that was the first part of the recognition of the 77th generation. And so he learned while he was there, you don't have to worry about becoming it. You are already it.
Yeah.
And that moment where the land holds you and says, yes, this is solid. You do not ever have to worry about this within who you are.
That's
This
so
carries,
poignant. I just want to cry as you say that.
yeah.
I think a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah. It doesn't matter who we are or what we do. I mean, if you follow a path that you believe in that is uplifting, and we're perpetual students. Human beings, if we're not learning, we're making trouble. Um, because we get bored, right? I mean, boredom creates dysfunction. I got to tell you that, okay? So to be out, and for me right now, the pilgrimages and even the teachings I share is about that sensual telepathy and how this is another language from Earth.
Yes.
So a lot of what I'm trying to tell people these days is, yeah, okay, we just had an earthquake here in San Diego, right?
Yes.
I actually just noticed 5 days later that a big tree came down. It took me a minute.
Yeah.
Uh, but what happens? Well, there are emissions from Earth and there are different energies because that magnetic grid is, displaced a little bit when things like that happen. And it could be a hurricane, tornado, earthquake, volcano. These earth changes are about mother growing in her physical form, you know and as women, we can associate with mother is in menopause right now, so we're giving her some space.
She's hot. She's a hot mama.
But
Yeah.
instead of necessarily going to I'm sick, I'm broke, what's going on in the environment around us, because it really is a co-creation. All
Yeah.
those energies are affecting us. And so giving mom a little compassion and understanding and learning what to do in certain patterns of energy throughout the year, the seasonal weather patterns and whatever, really makes a heck of a lot of difference in how much you get sick,
Yeah.
how depressed you get, because there's simple little things we can do that keep us out of those zones.
Yeah.
And then you keep moving along, okay? But the most important one is to take 10 minutes a day and go out and spend time with her, because watching animals, feeling the breeze on your skin, laying on a hot rock, those are all her messages of love to us. And truly, she is the only unconditional source of love there is, at least while you're alive on the planet.
It's consistent too.
Yes, very much.
And it connects us through our bones to everyone that has been before, and
Yeah,
through our breath with everyone that's coming
that's it.
forward.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so uh, awestruck and I feel the sense of deep gratitude and privilege to hear the stories of what happened.
Yeah.
I thought about coming with you guys and I couldn't and I didn't, but I was there remotely and I've been doing art to mostly watercolor to express
Yeah.
the spiritual shifts. And so around the time that I knew the ceremony was taking place, I didn't know exactly what day or hour.
Yeah.
I was compelled to paint. And so I created a painting for Matt, who I've never
Yeah.
met,
Yeah.
and got permission to send it to him. And I just heard back from him a
Oh,
few days ago
great.
that he did receive it. And what I didn't know when I painted it for him is that he is an extraordinary artist. And I felt so embarrassed to send.
No.
I did, though. I felt embarrassed to send him a painting, and yet I knew he would receive it as it was meant to be sent as a heartfelt gratitude and
Yeah.
honoring of his passage now into this
Yeah.
state of his life and
Yeah.
through his mom. And I know that there were symbols in the art that were specific to him. And so I made mention of that in the note that I sent him.
Yeah.
So I know that even though my painting quality and training is pales in comparison to his, and that's not a comparison, but I also know the power of spirit communication and of presence of time and place.
Yeah.
And it's not for me to know what is contained on that paper, but he is able to read it and understand it. So,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And he would tell you the same thing I'm gonna tell you. It's
yes.
the spirit heart. And that's what's made us family all these years. So um the one thing that I didn't mention, that I do want to bring up, is this pilgrimage we called a legacy walk, because it was family oriented. Not always are the pilgrimages quite this intimate
Hmm.
with recent family. A lot of times they're more about ancient family members back there that took care of the land at that point. And yeah, you ever have a thought just like completely vanish?
Well, it sounds like you wanted to make a point about what is being offered in the future as different from this particular pilgrimage.
Yeah, there was something there.
Is there something that you'll be
I'm going to
offering?
tell you, don't have judgment. This is for all of you out there. Do not have judgment on this. That's the sacred parents going, not now.
Okay.
Okay, so don't have judgment on it. Let it go. If it's supposed to be said, they'll slide it back in where it actually belongs.
Okay. Got it.
And a lot of times that need to have something out there, that's your little kid because they're excited, and it
Yeah.
may not be the appropriate
Yeah.
timing.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're coming to the end of our time, but is it okay if I share a couple of moments from my time with you in
you
2015?
betcha.
There are so many that were so precious and so dear. Um, one of them that was really cool was you talk about being in appropriate protocol. And we did go to the volcano, and there was some sulfur gas smoke cloud coming up from the inside the land, and we were on the outside, and we had a ceremony. And before the ceremony began, the uh, the cloud formations were rather erratic, chaotic, I would say, or dispersed. They didn't necessarily form into anything in particular.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I was able to take a picture, and it was the form of, it looked like a woman's body. And so with the head. And so I saw that as a representation of Pele in the
Yeah.
smoke. It was really quite spectacular. And in that was in 2015 and 2012 on the winter solstice. I gathered with the Lemurian choir in Maui. There were 900 of us,
Yeah.
and Lee Carroll and Kahuna
Yeah.
and Dr. Todd of and 900 people from around the world, and we were chanting very specific tones
Uh-huh.
to bring in this new era on the planet. And the remarkable thing that happened, we were outside practicing a rehearsal with 900 of us. And there were some light clouds up in the sky at night with the stars. And as we would tone, the clouds would coalesce into shapes that were representative of the tones that we were chanting.
Yeah.
And then we would stop and be quiet, and they would dissipate. And then we would chant a different tone. And once again, and we had this brochure that kind of had pictures of the tones that were intuitively created from Deb
Okay.
DeLisi. And
Uh-huh.
I was looking at them saying, they're up there in the sky. Like, this is the tone for such and such. There it
Yeah.
is in the clouds. So these moments are synchronous. They may or may not have meaning for people,
Mm-hmm.
but they carry a vibrational relevance, and I think an invitation to see things through different eyes, maybe
Yeah.
the eyes from the heart,
Yeah.
and to be very connected to this call and response, this beauty from the land. And the other thing I'll share is that um, when we were closing our ceremony at Kahuna Kalei's house, we had a campfire, and we were dancing, and we were singing and chanting. And it was a beautiful night with all of us together. And as we were finishing the very last exaltation, we were screaming and yelling and dancing and having so much fun. We fell silent. Everyone was like, shh. And we fell silent. And we heard an echo drum come back towards us. And
Uh-huh.
everybody was like, what was that? So that was I was glad I wasn't the only one who was startled, that people who have had a lot more experience with ceremonial ritual than myself were also a little bit thrown.
Uh, yeah, it's two things. Okay. Understanding, highly overrated. Okay. I mean, how's your body feel? As human beings, we kind of search for those explanations about how this can happen or what does this mean. And it's like, go to your body first. How do you feel?
Yes.
That's the underlying understanding, is that this is feeding you, filling you up, taking care of you. Okay.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the drum and stuff, when things happen, we're not always aware that they're going to happen, right? And it's just that moment that the veil opens up and confirms, right? That synchronistic moment. And it doesn't really matter who we are, whether we're 77th generation Kahuna or whether we're, they call me tsanti back home. That's a dreamer. Go figure. So there are things there that, yeah, okay, we've studied these things, we grew up in these practices, and yeah, we know. That's the knowing about, what to do, action to do to get the unexplainable to happen.
Yeah.
That's, we line things up. That's it. Do we know what's going to happen when we get there? Oh, heck no. Are we prepared for what's going to happen when we get there? Maybe. And are we always elated, motivated, and drawn to the next opportunity? Always.
Yeah.
Always.
And they're not always fun. They can be painful. They can be riveting. They can be subtle. They can be as gentle as a sweet little breeze on your cheek right at the right moment that just breaks your heart open,
Yeah.
So, but what a pleasure. What a great thing. Thanks for showing up to the planet.
I'm so excited to see you in person.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me and letting me share the story of Aunty Calais, and just, go out there and lay on mom and tell her you love her. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
That's all it takes to know her in your life.
Yeah.
So thanks, Lori.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. If you want to learn more, you can visit my website for podcast and resources at hopshealingtips.com. You can also like, share, and subscribe to this channel. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only and is not providing healthcare advice. Please seek guidance from your professional healthcare team should you need assistance.